Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Totally Awesome, Try Something New and Talk About It Tuesday. If this is your first time listening, I'm a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and a life coach. But I like to call myself a change adventure navigator because I love guiding people through obstacles and adversity to find their path, purpose, and peace, and a little soulfire wisdom along the way. So what I tried this week was I got to go to a barbecue, a socially distanced backyard barbecue with my family. And you know how people get a new gadget and they talk about it like it's the, greatest thing since sliced bread? So when they do, I usually just kind of, oh yeah, sure, because I've tried those things enough times and, not found them to be as great as they sounded. But both my sister and my sister-in-law were talking about the ninja foodies that they have and how wonderful they were and how they could make everything with them in no time, and it just tasted amazing. So my sister made the whole dinner except for a little bit of grilling that my brother-in-law did in her Ninja Foodie. And I'll have to say, it was pretty amazing. It really did taste a lot better. She had corn on the cob and steamed vegetables and baked potatoes, and the steak was even pre-cooked before it was put on the grill in the foodie. So I think I'm going to have to get one. I'm going to have to get one. So thumbs up for the Ninja Foodie. We have a great show planned for this week. My guest is Bettina Carey, and she is Chief Empowerment Officer of the Women's Empowerment Marketplace. And that's a global network committed to empowering women one business at a time. With 27 years of entrepreneurial experience, Bettina has a wide range of skills to share with the women she serves. Described as a communicator and force of nature, she motivates and educates with her upfront, no holds barred, keeping it real persona. Born to Puerto Rican parents in 1958, Bettina is a business leader who is well established and highly respected in the Seattle community. As an ardent supporter of women, she is simply known as the woman behind the women. She's using her time during the COVID-19 stay-at-home pause to write her first book titled Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling, Unlocking Your Hidden and Full Potential with Your Master Key. So stay tuned for the release date on that. Bettina is also an inspiring speaker who leaves a lasting impression. She tackles the hottest topics, focusing on 5 key areas: business, leadership, love, life, and health. One of her current favorites is getting what's close to your heart closer to your money. This is something many entrepreneurs struggle with, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So since I originally met Bettina on Zoom, talking to her on Zoom seems pretty natural. That was actually before COVID. So I'm going to introduce Bettina right now. Hi, Bettina. How are you?
Hi there, Kate. It's great to see you once again, and thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm looking forward to chatting with you a bit now.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and, how you got to your current path?
Yes, I always like to say I slipped and fell into business because I was a nurse and I had a slip and fall accident that took me out of the workforce as I knew it. And then I ended up becoming the president of a medical organization. And I noticed that there were some of the women there that were business owners like I myself. And I realized that they didn't have anything that they could be networking about that was specifically related to them as women business owners. I didn't know anything about chambers at the time, didn't even know what the word networking really was. And basically founded and formed a group that was called at the time Women in Small Biz. And then that evolved to Women in Small Biz shows and events. And so I've been helping empower women for the last 27 years of my life, off and on, producing events like a quarterly summit that I'm doing these days. And that's really my passion. I call it my avocation, which is a little different than my vocation because my vocation is in marketing, advertising, and publishing. So that's pretty much my little role in the world in a nutshell.
So all entrepreneurs really need help and support in business. Why do you focus on women?
I think I focused primarily on women because I was myself a woman, and also because I had a lot of hard knocks in the very, very beginning. So I could relate to women and the underdog position that most of us had found ourselves in. I grew up, not having the luxury of parents who had saved for a college education, nor that college was even in the books for me. At the time when I was growing up, women either became nuns or they ended up being teachers or nurses. And I had a natural desire in the medical field, so I did become a nurse. But at the end of the day, I didn't have choice in my life. And so I think women and the issues around the women's wage gap and women in domestic violence, because I also, was a victim of domestic violence and now a survivor of that. So all of those reasons gave me a lot of reasons to be talking to women who were in disempowered roles, disempowered relationships, jobs, you name it. And I became their champion. And as you've mentioned, the woman behind the women.
Yes, I can relate to that. All of my life, I was told that I should be a teacher or a nurse.
Yes. And back then, you couldn't even have a credit card without a man's signature on it. And so, if you were trying to do anything, it all related back to the patriarchy and not the matriarchy. And just to come up the ranks of nursing, which as a profession was also dominated by the male doctors, I really ended up learning the hard way that women had it a little bit tough. And so I decided that I was going to, put up my sleeves and start knocking down the road blocks and breaking through the barriers for women and myself as well. I did end up going to college. I got my bachelor's of science in nursing at the University of Washington while I'm working full time and also holding down a marriage at the time, and managed to find my way into marketing after that slip and fall accident, and started my own business, which was another barrier that I had to break. So I'm all about helping women to break through their own glass ceiling with their master key.
Yeah, I encountered the same things, did it a little bit differently. I actually rebelled. The two things I wasn't going to be were a nurse and a teacher, even though they did have reason for saying I should be a teacher, because I actually kind of like doing that. But just because I was told you should, I was sure that I wasn't going to. But it wasn't easy trying to rebel against that either. You came up against the ideas of society and your own ideas, like even if you feel that, you should have a larger role, there's still that little voice whispering, well, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're just, trying to do something you shouldn't be doing.
Yes, back in the day, I would say it was the man's world and women were trying to live in it. And now, after doing some of my own self-discovery in the early 2000s, I also discovered that we can stand in our own way as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just breaking through the traditional glass ceiling, it's also breaking through our own glass ceiling, which is usually self-imposed limitations, perfectionism, doing too much, making others first in line, and not even putting ourselves on the list, and things like that can also stop and block us from achieving the kind of success that I know as women we can achieve.
Yes, and thinking you have to do, all the roles, like men, they haven't been faced as much up until now anyway with that. They just did the male role. Why do women lag so far behind male counterparts when it comes to, running a business as well as just making an income?
I think one of the biggest challenges that women face is that our culture raises us to be different. And also, I think genetically and the way our brains are wired, we are always about community and about others. And then our society reinforces that, whereas men are given a lot of different opportunities as young boys that women aren't and young girls aren't. And so we end up not only having the brain that's wired to think of others first, but also we're constantly inculcated to be thinking about others. So one of the big barriers for women has to do with, the desire that they have for others can sometimes be a bigger desire than the one that they have for themselves. So putting themselves first is something that has to be taught, self-taught, or as we're raising young girls. Like I have a granddaughter who's 8 now, going to be 9. Obviously, I'm helping her to see that she has to put herself first. Taking time to she meditates at this point. She takes time to exercise, get out, do sports and things like that, all of which are really important to her mental health and her stability. And I do the same for myself. A second thing I would add is perfectionism. I discovered perfectionism at a very, very young age, and living into wanting everything to be in place and in alignment before I was ready to go get that next job, make that next career move, or, even get a business loan for my business. I always had to have everything, all the ducks had to be in a row. A typical male, however, will write down their ideas, exchange with their male counterparts, write it down on a napkin, or very much just flush it out, but not necessarily have it all pinned down, go out and start talking about it with others, get investments and investors involved, and all of a sudden their idea is being brought to fruition. Whereas the women might spend years trying to develop the model, the example, the item, the product, the service, and then only to find they've spent all of their savings, all of their credit cards, only to get to a point where they don't have the funding and they have to quit whatever their dream or idea was. So I think that that's another really big issue for women. I have a saying that I follow and practice now, which is done is better than perfect, and it's more profitable. So if you see something of mine go up that looks like it's imperfect, it's done on purpose at this point. I'm willing to be not only flying the Cessna airplane in the plane while I'm gluing it together, I'm also willing to jump out with the parachute that isn't necessarily going to go off on time. And generally I land right in the right place, even doing that, as opposed to trying to make sure that the plane is all put together before I even get it in the air and before I'm willing to jump out of the airplane. Because at the end of the day, we spend way too much effort trying to make things look good and sound good and taste good. And that's not how successful businesses do it.
True, but it was kind of required of us for women to be considered equal or even close to equal. They had to do twice as much, be twice as good. So, that was part of how, we were kept in our place.
Well, in the corporate world, that's actually still the case. I left the corporate world some time ago, back in early 2000s, or actually in the 90s rather. And I deal with the corporate world on the outside, but I don't have much to do with it on the inside at this point. But of the women that I do coach and consult with that are related to the corporate world, they still have those experiences.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
True. So the cornerstone to your success is collaboration. How can women successfully team up with one another to be more successful?
Sure. Yes, I really believe in collaboration. Collaboration saves not only time, but it saves money. And so to the point of, how do you get what's close to your heart closer to the money? You really should think about collaboration. Unfortunately, sometimes women find themselves in a situation where they are comparing themselves to other folks, and then what that drives is more envy, and it drives that comparison game, which doesn't really work. So what I do is I try to find natural fitting partners who have strengths in areas that I might not have, or if we do overlap in strengths, we're not competing head to head with each other. And then we're able to co-create really wonderful opportunities. I also specifically look for collaborations that also do good, and they are focused on good causes. So I'm often doing what's called cause-related marketing as opposed to straightforward marketing. And I think that's another area that folks should really invest in and look into, is doing cause-related marketing.
So what do you mean when you say that you help women get what's close to the heart, closer to the money? What exactly does that mean?
So what I mean by that is that oftentimes we are too close to things to see what's missing. And it's like seeing the forest from the trees, right? So what I do is I mentor and cheerlead women who have passions and products and services and goods that they would like to get out there, and look at their businesses from a revenue standpoint, and try to advise and consult with them on making sure that they've got the right revenue model in place. Because if they don't, they might find themselves running out of fuel as they are on the path that they're on. Another thing I do is to try to advise women on specifically making sure that they have enough fuel, that they also know and have a map that they're following to go to whatever route they're going to be on. Because if you don't build your business and your practice with the end in mind, you're likely not to get there. So being very specific around their revenue model, their target market, and also their best fitting clients, the niche that they are target marketing to, and making sure that they've thought things through far enough to better understand what's going to be needed to take them the whole way. Sometimes what I find is that people are so out of touch with reality that they are so unaware that it's going to cost them 3 or 4 or 5 times as much, and it's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 times as much time. And so sometimes it's just doing reality checks. Is there a better way? Can they do it in phases, whatever it is? And so I operate as a consultant and trusted advisor for not only small companies and startups, but also multi-million-dollar companies use my services as well.
Good. That is, it's better to, I guess, learn it than experience it.
Of course, the only reason I can give this advice is because I've done everything all the wrong ways in the past.
Yes, me too.
And so I know how to do it wrong, and I also know how to do it right.
Yep. So why is money such a powerful barrier for women in achieving the same level of success as men?
Well, money is just a measure, right? It's not the end all be all. It certainly isn't something that I pursue. I, in fact, translate the word money to flow. So I'm always pursuing the best flow, and flow often translates into money. But as a friend of mine, Barbara Ozeda, likes to say, if money can solve the problem, there is no problem. So if you're in a position where you're pursuing the hot, mighty dollar, that may not get you where you're going. But if you're pursuing the flow and the energy, the passion, the purpose, and you're all spot on with, the right fitting client who's like your dream client, you're going to make money at the end of the day. If you're off by any measure, you're going to be probably lacking in fuel, lacking in energy, lacking in money. They're all kind of tied together.
Yeah, I think so. As much as we want money, I don't think we really like money. I mean, I do not like dealing with the concept of money. So considering it flow, that makes it a lot more palatable.
Yeah, flow. I have had the experiences literally of going into my garage and simply getting rid of stuff, throwing it away, recycling it, moving, discarding, putting things to other people who might need it more than I do. And literally cash just starts to flow into my bank account. Opportunities, the phone starts ringing, just flow and money start to appear. So that's why I focus on the flow of money and not money itself. Money's never been of interest to me, really. But of course, it is what makes the world go round. And if I want to travel, if I want to pay my bills, if I want to take on a business adventure, I need to be able to create money. But money is not my object. It's flow and energy that's my object. And that ultimately leads me to money.
So what is the number one issue that impacts women thwarting their efforts to run a business?
I mentioned it earlier, and I personally believe it's perfectionism. So what do I mean by perfectionism? I mean the fact that just a typical example is a man will get a job offer and a woman will get the same job offer. a man will say, that's not enough money. That's, that's not enough X, Y, or Z. And they'll negotiate for more because they don't have to be perfectly trained. They may have less experience, but they then turn that into negotiations, right? So a woman, on the other hand, might be in the position of having more qualifications and be the perfect fit, meaning they have the right education, they have the right experience, but they won't necessarily take the step to make the negotiation. So the combination of perfectionism and then not negotiating literally everything in life puts them behind the 8 ball, and that will be the remainder of their life if they don't change things up. So now, pretty much in my life, the only thing I don't negotiate is the gas at the gas station and the groceries at the grocery store, and of course retail shopping. But when it comes to contracts, when it comes to wages, when it comes to making more for knowing just what I know, trust me, I'm going to negotiate. I'm going to negotiate the terms. I'm going to negotiate the amount. I'm going to negotiate extras, perks, accommodations, you name it, because that's what men do, and that's what men have been doing for years, and it keeps them ahead of women by a mile. And I'm here to try to remedy that. So I would say perfectionism first, and then negotiations is a big factor secondarily.
Okay. So are there other things that stand in the way of women, both in business and financial equality?
Yes, I'd say the not putting themselves on the list or putting themselves last on the list. And I have been, raised as a person that's very altruistic in my family, but I also probably was like that, born like that too. And so I have a tendency to want to help others, throw myself under the bus, as it were, in spite of the fact that I might have to pay a high price by helping others. My mom always said, you'd give the shirt off your back, wouldn't you? And I always say, yes, I would. But now I have, probably for the last 13 or 14 years, been more focused on putting myself first and making sure that I'm taken care of and that I'm self-supporting and that I have enough before I offer myself and whatever it is I have to others. So having transitioned, to being self-sufficient and self-supporting, I now am in a better position to help others than I ever have been. But it took a lot of work to try to put myself on the list in the first place. And then now I keep myself at least in the first or second position. Of course, I'm a grandmother, so sometimes my lily bug gets in the first position. And of course, I'm a daughter, so my mom will get in the first position. I'm a friend, so sometimes my friends will get in the first position. But as soon as I can return back into the first position, I do. And that means getting enough rest, taking care of my health, my love life, my personal life as often as possible, and not letting others' lives, which they are responsible for, and they have choices that they're making that are putting them in harm's way, letting them figure things out. So that's another big factor, is not only do you need to figure out that you're the number one priority that needs to find a way to be self-sufficient and self-supporting, but also you're not really helping people by helping them where they are more enabled by you versus helped by you. So I've also shifted to being more of a helper, a mentor, a cheerleader versus someone who is actually stepping in and taking an enabling role, because that doesn't do me any good.
So how can women transform their perfectionism into, something that works better?
Well, in my case, it was embodying the mantra that done is better than perfect. And if you have to say that to yourself in your head 1,000 times, that done is better than perfect, and just, you can watch others around you, of the male persuasion that are doing it. They do not wait till they have the right college education. They do not wait to make sure they have all the right expertise before they go after something. They want it, they go after it. So, it's literally putting down perfectionism is one of the hardest things that I personally have ever had to do. But it's the best thing that I've ever done to change my life. So my way of doing it was just getting a little mantra in my head. So now when I see myself, spending a little bit too much time on, say content or an image or a graphic or a marketing piece, I just say to myself, done is better than perfect, and it's more profitable. And then immediately I stop, and I'm willing to just leave it the way it is. And sure enough, stuff happens.
Yeah, I know, well, it's something I've dealt with, but I know several people who have a really hard time with that are, really creative people, but they
Yeah,
have
it's
trouble.
awareness comes first. So just catch yourself in the act of perfectionism and say it out loud in your head. Oh, there you go again. You're behaving perfectly. That doesn't serve you. It's okay to not be perfect. Send it off. Press send, put it up on, if it's a social media post, see what happens. If you have to go back and make a correction, make a correction. It's no big deal.
So what are the effects, not only on women, but on families and society, of women not achieving financial equality?
Well, that one is a really big one, because women, when they're allowed to bring home the bacon and lots of it, they always turn it back on their community and on their family and their friendships. And so at the end of the day, when we are behind in wages or we're behind in revenues for business, it affects the entire community. So that's the biggest impact. If we are to ever get to a place in society where more money is put into the community, we have to balance out the wage gap that women have, both in business in terms of revenues and in salaries as it relates to corporate wage earning folks.
Yeah, it's not an accident that the countries in the world that are doing the best are run by women.
Right, exactly.
So what can we do to change the current economic disparity for women?
When I would say maybe back in the 90s, I would say that it's a man's world and that we've got to change that world. But now that I've gone through my own journey of mindset, I mean, you as a hypnotherapist knows how powerful the mind is. Mm-hmm. That's the journey to start. Whether you need to get yourself a coach, a mentor, a cheerleader, someone that can help you, a hypnotherapist, someone that can help you with your mindset, that is the number one place to start. Yeah. Without your mind being in the right place, it's going to be really, really hard to make inroads into this gap that you might be experiencing with revenue for your business or with wages if you're a professional woman in business. At the end of the day, you really have to work on your mind. I call it like mind control, or where you actually have to brainwash your mind with mantras, with philosophies, with, coaching, with beliefs. We may have been raised with beliefs that are not serving us. I'm currently this year working on a belief that I've had my entire life. As you mentioned, I'm, born to Puerto Rican parents, and my Puerto Rican parents are some of the hardest working people that have ever existed. My dad's now passed, but when he was alive, he worked his fingers to the bone. So I came up with the belief that you have to work hard for a living.
Mhm.
So that mindset is still with me. And for the last several months, I've been working on breaking through the pattern of belief that it's in order for me to do more and to be and have more, that I need to work hard. And the reality is it's working. I'm working with ease. I'm working less, not more. I'm working from my seat here in my dining area as opposed to going out and about. And it's a much easier path. And I think my numbers, I just did my numbers last week, and I was up 6,000% over last year by working less and working on an easier path in life. And so that a lot of what we have to work on is right here.
Yes. It's actually not a brainwashing, but reprogramming, rewiring,
Yeah.
getting rid of all those beliefs that, we were sort of brainwashed with.
Yeah. I grew up, for example, in a very highly critical environment. So, if you cooked some rice and it was just a little too salty, that it was too salty. If you cooked it, it was a little underdone, it was a little underdone. So you could never seem to get it right. So that also built into me a really high level of performance where everything is in order, and even to this day, like even how I dress, everything's always matching. Everything's always perfect. My makeup is always in place. My hair is always in place. So it's still there. But what I have been able to do is transmute my perfectionism as it relates to business, where I don't worry about spending hours and hours and hours perfecting something. I just get it done and I get it out there. And I do give it time, and it is really good stuff that I do. But, I don't know about you, but have you ever jumped on, any new program or new cell phone or whatever? Was it perfect when those companies put those phones out there or those programs out there? It never is. And they know that perfectionism would have halted their business from ever getting off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
If I waited for my iPhone to be perfect or my Word document program to be working 100%, I would probably still be waiting.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not perfect.
Exactly. So, do you feel, excuse me, do you feel that there's hope for women achieving true equality in the business world and in just general other aspects of our lives?
I do. I'm very hopeful, but I'm a very positive person. So I'm the person that's going to see the glass half full. I will say that it's not going to be with just women at this, at the front. We have to have the men on our side. They have to pull us up. They have to be there to cheer us on, to mentor us, to sponsor us, to coach us. Without the men, this journey could be another 50 to 100 years that women are on. But together, as a society, as we, not I or me, we can make this journey a successful one, and we can do it in my lifetime. I do not want to leave this earth without having accomplished this. And so my journey is including being a part of women's empowerment as a movement, not just women's empowerment as a standalone item or object, but actually as a movement.
I actually think all of this that's been going on is related. And there's one one attitude that we really need to change that's behind it all, of inequity between different groups, whether it's racial, gender. It's the idea behind it is I'm better than you because.
Right.
And that's the thing that needs to change, and it needs to change for all of those areas.
Yeah. And I think we're getting the opportunity as women to unite The fact of the matter is that I was able to reach, and I'm now going to continue my journey to reach women around the globe through Zoom, that platform that I was not effectively using in the past is now a primary platform that I'm using to reach women. So, we're talking about flattening the curve when it comes to COVID. Well, I'd like to flatten the curve around the wage gap around women in professional world and also in business.
That's a major factor in what's going on with COVID now too. Not specifically women, but lower income people are affected more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Inequity is definitely at the helm here.
Yes.
And it's partly cultural, because
Definitely.
in the past men were given the right to be above and over women, and women were not allowed to own their own properties or have their own credit cards or buy their own homes. And so we're still outliving that inequity.
Well,
so
there's competition and achievement are a good thing, but when competition and achievement are used to, place one group over another, it becomes oppressive.
Yes.
And that's, our society was based on that for a long time. I'm better than you because I'm a man. I'm better than you because I'm educated. I'm better than you because I'm a Christian. I'm better than you because I'm this race. And all of those ideas need to be challenged and changed.
Yes, yes. And for those who are viewing this, make no mistake, I am not against men at all. This is not about being against a group. This is about us coming together as a society to address inequities. In this case, of course, since I've been doing this since the 90s, it's specifically because I was a woman who was under-empowered, unappreciated, didn't have a voice, didn't have a choice. That's the only reason it was about me being a woman, and now it's about women's empowerment. Mm-hmm. But also I'm a minority as a Puerto Rican. I've experienced my own versions of things that have been inequities in that regard as well. And I'm sure I'll still have some in my future. But at the end of the day, this particular conversation has been primarily around women's empowerment. And I have more to say about disempowerment around the world on all kinds of topics. But, obviously we're centering this around business and revenues and wage.
But it is all related. We can't just do one of them. And one of the groups that's sort of oppressed now is young men. So can't have any groups being treated in an unequal.
Yeah. In fact, what the we has actually taken a priority in our group. So we are, although we're under the brand of the Women's Empowerment Marketplace, we have men speakers, we have men who are also members, and our Facebook group is We Empower You as opposed to Women Anything, because we are very much aware of the fact that without the men, we can't change this without them. We have to have the men involved. We have to have their support. We have to have their role, the role that they play in our society, to move and advance women forward. And it's about confidence, and building women's confidence comes from their interactions with themselves as women, but also the interactions with their male counterparts.
Yes, and it's also a matter of educating men beyond those stereotypical ideas that they've carried for so long. One thing that women becoming more equal does for men is relieve some of the huge pressure and responsibility from them that has over time caused them to be under greater stress and have a shorter lifespan. So, if people are more equal, maybe men will start living longer.
Yes, wouldn't that be good?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we're getting toward the end of our time. If you could leave the listeners with one thought from today's show, what would you want that to be?
I would love it for women to unite around the globe on the front of women's empowerment. Together, we can change the globe one business at a time, one person at a time, and just unite, arm in arm, side by side, lift each other up. We can do this together. Empowerment is about voice and choice. And when there's one person who doesn't have voice or choice, that means the rest of us don't either. Until we all have equity in our voices and in our choices, we cannot rest. And we have to keep going, march on. If you've been called as a leader, as a woman leader, whether you're a man or a woman, to rise up and to be a part of the women's empowerment movement, you only need to step into that role and give me a call, because I'm all about that.
Yes, definitely some of the biggest advocates for women are dads of young girls. So
yes, we have a lot of really great stories from our men that are members of the Women's Empowerment Marketplace.
So how can people reach you if they'd like to get in touch?
One of the easiest ways is to just take out their phone right here. Just take out your phone and text 555-888. That's a short phone number. And just text the word women. And I will get your message. You'll get a link back and you can provide your information, share what you're doing to support women and girls, and then we'll be in communication with each other. Secondarily, we have the Women's Empowerment Marketplace, which is women'sempowermentmarketplace.com. And then quarterly, right around the seasonal change, we actually have the Women's Empowerment Summit. So that is listed on the Women's Empowerment Marketplace.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Kate, for having me. It's been a wonderful
thank you
time.
For being here and sharing what you're doing. And of course, I hope you have a lot of success in it.
Thank you so much. It feels like the right time to be having this conversation.
Yes, definitely. So I have a couple of quotes that I'd like you to carry with you through your week. And one is, equality will be achieved when men and women are granted equal pay and equal respect. And that was said by Beyonce. And then I think part of it is people really engaging in self-examination. The thing about implicit and unconscious bias is you may really not be aware that you are discounting individual experiences and expertise based on characteristics like race and gender. And that was said by Emily Martin. So I'd like to thank Bettina again and thank the audience for listening today. We have another great show planned for next week, and that show will actually be, you'll get to hear about my great adventure. So tune in next week, 8:25, 3 p.m., and I'll tell you about the adventure I've been having this summer. So I'm just going to say bye for now.
Bye, Kate. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, Bettina.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.